Check. Check the mic. Check. There you go. Nice to see you. Hi, everybody. Oh, fuck, I'm zoomed in on the YouTube. I'm zoomed in. Too zoomed. Hi, welcome back. My name is Dean. Nice to see everybody. We've got a busy show for you today. Lots to get to. We've got happy things, sad things, fun things, spring things, hockey things, movie things, TV things, Canadian things, CBC things, PP things. We got things today. It's going to be a things show. Welcome back. Lock and Cross, 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton, host of The Locker Room, which is a rock and roll radio morning show. The best in the country, centered in the middle of the
You are too kind.
Well, it is. There are no rock and roll radio shows left, so you got that going for you. Plus,
so you're the best of one.
The best of like 12, maybe 9.
There's like
10?
one. No,
One,
you know what? Listen, there's a lot of very talented people left in this business that Dean has long since forgot, moved on, and left behind, and deems unworthy of mentioning other than the one that I'm on.
You're on. Well, why bother?
Hey, I want to jump in.
Give you some advertising, but we got anyway. Adam Scorgie coming up.
I know.
He's a film director, documentarian. He's got this new documentary. One of the greatest Canadian boxers of our time, Arturo Gotti. Life and Death of Arturo Gotti.
There's some question marks about how he passed away, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know this story well, but I know enough about it that I'm intrigued to watch this doc. Yeah. So. This is an interesting one. Adam will hopefully Adam is able to make it. Okay, jumping in 5. Yeah, he just sent me a text. Yeah. Do you want to start with the Leafs? Because I think we can even talk about Leafs with Adam.
Yeah, I want to. I wrote a post about this. We got Leafs, we got CBC, we got a bunch of stuff to get to, but to hockey, playoff hockey specifically.
Yeah,
that the fever that has gripped fan bases across this country in at least 3 markets. And congratulations to the Winnipeg Jets, who absolutely fisted the Vegas Golden Knights last night, limped into the playoffs.
Was a surprise.
There's Edmonton and there's Toronto going, look at us, we're the cream of the fucking NHL crop in Canada. The Jets get in and they go down to Vegas and just fist them. We'll get to the injury to this kid Morgan Barron in just a second too. It was one of the grossest things I've ever seen in my fucking life.
I missed that.
Oh, it was so bad. But
okay,
we have problems in Toronto and Edmonton. Like big problems, man.
You know what's interesting? Before I just want to highlight
lost
something.
Last night, 7-3. They get fisted in Game 1 of their opening Stanley Cup Series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Edmonton a couple of nights ago. They go again tonight. 2-2 goal leads. Blew them both. Lost in overtime after the Kings scored 3 miraculous goals in the third period. We'll get to that. It's just a down time to be a hockey fan in this country.
No, it isn't. It is not.
No, it is. You can't
tell it is if you're a Leaf.
Oh yeah, it's disaster here, dude. Everybody's shitting their fucking pants.
But we talked about this.
Stories, all kinds of stuff. Reasons people are giving. I know we did. People overreaction theater, dude. That's what we should call every post-game show. Just knee-jerk reaction time, because you wouldn't believe the stuff that's coming out of Toronto. Like you wouldn't believe it. It is a conspiracy against the referees. Wes McCauley's name has come up in terms of like conspiracy theories about how much he hates Sheldon Keefe because Wes McCauley's brother-in-law is David Frost, the guy that Mike Danton tried to kill, and Sheldon Keefe and Mike Danton were pals back in the day.
Oh, so I missed all this.
Oh my God.
I was trying to find Leaf memes, so I wasn't digging into stories.
No, the stories are like, and it's like, the Leafs have lost 8 straight playoff games that Wes McCauley has refereed. The fix is in. He hates the team, and he hates Sheldon Keefe because he's Sheldon Keefe hates Wes McCauley's brother-in-law. Like literally, that is the number 1 story in Toronto today. It's not the loss.
Wow.
It's not the previous 20 years of futility. It's not the garbage performance from fucking Jump Street to the third period, end of period fucking buzzer. It wasn't how awful they played. Wasn't how terrible their goaltending was. Wasn't how stupid Michael Bunting was. The narrative in this city today, because we can't deal with loss anymore because we're so tired of it, is the fix is in with Wes McCauley and the referees and someone's brother-in-law and a scandal in Barrie back in 1998. That's what's happening here. That's literally the biggest story in the city today. Not the truth, just bullshit. Because Leaf fans are like, there's got to be a reason why we can't win.
Bettman. It's also Bettman, I heard, too. Here's what I will say.
Unbelievable.
Here's what I will, because we had a conversation about on the air. It's funny that you wrote a post about this, but we had a conversation on the show this morning with Bag Milk about which loss is worse, because both teams, very similar stories, very similar strengths, very similar weaknesses.
Yeah,
there is a narrative that runs through Edmonton, and they're both running up against teams that seem to perennially do well in playoff situations. So there's a lot of cohesiveness between what's happening in Toronto, what's happening in Edmonton.
Yeah.
And then they both lose the bed, shit the bed miraculously in the first period, or in the first game of the opening series. And so you can't help but sit there and go, okay, which loss is worse? And we came to the conclusion that that the Leafs' loss was worse.
Of course you did, you fucking
And
idiot.
here's why. Here's why, because the Oilers took one period off.
Yeah.
The Leafs
took three.
The Leafs took 3 periods.
Well, let me put it to you this way, because I'm a big fan of saving time. Adam Scorgie's just popped into the newsroom here.
Yeah, get him in here
in just a second. But let me explain this to you.
Hockey.
Let me explain why it's the worst. Why the not the Leaf loss, the Oiler loss is the worst. Because at 9:31 last night, with 10, 11 minutes remaining in the third period, I got to turn it off and avoid the eventual disappointment of what I was watching towards the end.
Because you
didn't. You got all 3 periods and then an extra disappointing period where you lost. So the disappointment, like you were on easy street for basically 3 periods, right? Or 2.5. And then all of a sudden, bang, 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 bang. And I would rather have like Jump Street, your team get blown out. It's shit. Let's get on with the rest of the night. I went and finished Ant-Man Quantumania, started getting ready to interview Adam Scorgie. So I was looking up everything I could on Arturo Gotti and looking at him. I'm like, fuck, I had some time on my hands because the Toronto Maple Leafs were a fucking absolute embarrassment from the second they dropped to the puck to the second the third period buzzer went. So I would rather have that loss and chew on that all night, because I got to kind of, exercise my anger by doing other shit. If you're at the game, you're fucked. Like, did you see the people leaving the game? Scorgie joins us now. Adam Scorgie, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. He's all oilered up for tonight's game.
Wearing my Oilers shit for the game tonight because they're going to turn it around. So I love how you for the game tonight because they're going to turn it around. So I love how you try to justify that the Toronto loss is better. Not a chance.
Oh, dude, it was because I got to leave. That's the thing. I got to get up. I got to split. I got to walk away from it. Everything. Did you see the fucking thing last night, dude? Like you were in it for 3.5 periods, not us. We got to leave. Oh, we lost your audio. Scorgie, we lost your audio.
We got to fix Adam's.
Do us a favor. Just take that link that we sent you and open up Google and pump it into Google on your phone instead of Safari, and you'll be fine. So just pop
Chrome.
Out,
we need you on Chrome, big guy.
Yeah.
Okay. I have one more question while we're dealing with Adam's technical issues. I got one more question.
Can I play this video first?
I just
the Leaf fans leaving last night. Listen.
No, because this ties into it,
okay,
and then there's a great lead into the Leafs leaving.
All right, good.
Another what's worse question. What's worse? The Leafs losing Game 1 in the opening round of the 2023, or admitting to hundreds, possibly thousands of people that you watched Ant-Man. I'm going to struggle with that.
Leafs lost. I liked it. I'm a big Paul Rudd guy.
Liked Ant-Man.
And I watched it by myself. That's the other thing.
I think me knowing that you watched Ant-Man is worse than the Leafs loss.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Okay, what's worse? Me watching Ant-Man or these idiots that splashed out hundreds and probably millions of dollars just to go to the game, leaving before it ends because the Leafs were such a fucking cantankerous embarrassment. Look at this. That's it. Hey, Jersey. I'm out of here. It's like, at this point, it's 5-2.
Oh, wow.
They're just screaming out. They're like, I can't handle it. And I want you to know the average ticket price for last night's Leaf playoff game, game 1, was around $630. Yeah. So those people splashed out probably one seat. So like 12, 13, 1400 bucks. Those people splashed out 12, 13, 1400 bucks and were so upset with the result, didn't care about the experience, that they left. Hey, Scorgie, did you see this? It's not documentary material, but these are Leaf fans last night who paid an average of $630 a ticket and left in the second period because it sucked so hard.
That's brutal. I saw those memes going around today where it had a whole bunch of security holding Leafs fans, forcing them to watch the game. He was like, obviously, yeah, that one, yeah.
Well, I put that today as horrific scenes from Toronto where security forced Maple Leaf fans to stay in the stands throughout all of game 1.
Look, that's so like it's so weird. I think it's connecting with you guys. I didn't realize it was on your. I didn't realize it was in a few other places. So it was like that's a good one.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
Yeah. I was a big fan of the Affleck apathy pose with the Leafs jersey on. I thought that was good. I thought this one was actually really good too. Buffalo Sabres have the longest.
This isn't a meme. This is true.
Which makes it even better. The Buffalo Sabres have the longest drought in NHL history, yet they've still won a series more recently than the Leafs. But it goes both ways. It goes both ways because I don't know if you saw this. Mark Spector's article, McDavid has had enough. Moving truck spotted at Connor's home, seen wearing Leafs pajamas.
This is funny.
That's what the playoff like when we get those first 2 games right. And we're both you can say it was a better loss. We're both losers. Both the fan base lost last night. It completely sucked, and it was not the expectation. But this is the gear that I love hitting post game when we can start mocking each other and everybody laughs because it's too fucking unbelievable to be true, Scorgie. Like it is. It's too unbelievable to be true, is it not? Specifically here.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, I think the difference, in Toronto, though, they know they're in tough number. I think where Edmonton had hit a little harder is that, like, dare I say, like, Oilers not just, like, to beat LA, but to win the West. So that hasn't been for, I think people, that's why the fans were atrocious. And I don't approve the Oilers fans throwing shit on me. I'm all for booing the refs when it was bad calls, but Oilers just took some stupid penalties that were super blatant, like high sticks to the face and shit that you can't hide. Like the one at the end, I guess the one was kind of, and I did wrap around. It was the only one that was kind of like, but the other ones were like, you're now you got to be better. Like it looked like they just, LA found a way to get under their skin. It worked. To admit when your team's up, they need to be fucking better. So I hope they're better tonight because you do not want to go into LA being. So that is, I hope they can be better. But I would not have been in them to start.
No. Adam's got a good point, though. I mean, I think you can actually say that the Oilers' loss might have been worse because the expectations in Edmonton are that they're going to walk over the Kings. And I kept saying last week, I said, we can't. No, this is a team. They're well coached. Watch them pull a rabbit out of their ass here. But I think in Toronto, even though Tampa Bay kind of limped into this first round here, and they're limping even further after last night's game, I think Tampa Bay can't be ignored either, just based on like a lot of these teams and a lot of these veterans.
They're sneaky as fuck, right?
They
limped, dude. Like the last 2 months of the playoffs, they knew they were going to be one of 4 teams, right? I don't know if you saw this, Scorgie. They sat guys. Some guys would play, some guys wouldn't. Everybody got healthy. They're like, no big deal. We don't really care where we finish. And then the Leafs are just pounding away for home ice, right? And then you get into the playoffs and you have this unreal expectation in your head, like you guys do with the West, where you're like, oh, we're going to clean up. Then you get into that game. You're like, we dummied Tampa the last game of the season, and they've scored 7 goals. And it literally looked like men playing against children, to Lachlan's point. Like they had guys there that were doing things that we couldn't do, and they controlled the pace of the game. And Mitch Marner looked scared again. The second the fucking playoffs start, that guy looked fucking scared again last night. And I just sat there watching it for 2.5 periods going, okay, yeah, I expected this. Like because I've had it for like 5 straight years, Scorgie, it's like I should not expect a different result at this point, right?
It is. I mean, it is what makes hockey truly the postseason for hockey. Any of those teams can win. You know, you heard Charles Nashville series a while ago, and they're like, "Why are you here?" He's like, "I love hockey playoffs," and you're like, "Really? Better than bad? Any team can win." Especially you have these veteran teams, like you said, that they're like, "We don't care if we finish. Does it really matter? Who knows?" I'm sure there's some stat you can show me, but I mean, it sure as hell didn't. Every home team lost their home game, right? You get these, and Oilers were a little too comfortable. First 2 periods, oh man, we're gonna walk through them, but you know those veteran teams. Drew Doughty's been there a dozen times. Little ways that they do things off camera, they get you riled up, they get you to draw penalties. Like it comes into winning a cup, and what makes it heartbreaking at times. Also, is what it is one of, if not the hardest fucking team trophy to win. So many things can happen. Team, you can win. You know, my buddy was going through this. The dire Canucks fan that he's like, the year that they lost to Boston, playing in the league, best penalty kill. They had Henrik Sedin, all of them had record years. Like statistically, there was like, and they did, and they lost to, on paper, a far less superior team in Boston. Hockey's an interesting one like that. Game of inches. You hit a post, doesn't go in, it's on you, and the whole momentum of the game shifts. Oh. But it's what also makes it so exciting.
Yeah, it is, and you're right. 8-1, anybody can win. The Kings proved that several years ago. Every year, you got a few Cinderella teams, and it's not like any other sport in that regard because it is a fucking war, right? To that point, Michael Bunting last night, he's got a disciplinary hearing. I think it just happened. I don't know if he's suspended. He's probably going to get suspended for a couple of games. It was perfect. It was like this perfect karmic moment where this idiot player goes out and elbows a guy in the head when you're down 2 goals and you're still in the game, and you're like, my God, this couldn't get more Buffalo if we tried. You know, in terms of luck, in terms of stupidity, in terms of things that have to happen to put your team behind the 8 ball, right? Like that's the way that Toronto fans consumed that game last night. It was like Kadri 2.0. It just it doesn't stop. The hits just don't stop. Like when you think you're out of it, you get put back in it, and you're like, dude, there's just never going to happen. And then you look at the goaltending matchup, same thing. You look what happened in the with the Oilers game, same thing. You've got so many different variables, and to your point, it is impossible to predict a Stanley Cup champion at the start of any playoff run because we see it all the time. Even Boston's walked through the regular season. I think they're just as vulnerable as every other team because it is the NHL playoffs, and we know it is a war, and the variables in that war, like with Johnny T a couple of years ago, Montreal, he gets hit in the head. It's this freak accident. Like anything can happen, which is why I love this game as much as I love it, even though last night's results sucked so much ass.
More like one big play, one momentum shifter can shift a series, right? It was, again, I'll go back to the Oilers just because I know it clear, but you look at the 06 run. Nobody had trophy winning Detroit Red Wings, right? And that first game, the Oilers put a seed of doubt in, and Rolson made 55 saves, and they lost. And you're kind of like, oh man, so close to win, coming back to Edmonton. But then they won the next game, and they won in 6, right? And there's games that was one of the best sports runs I've been on. But there was so many times like Stevie Yzerman he scored there, whole momentum of the game would have shifted. Detroit would have taken a lead, build the momentum of inches, but you didn't. You hit the post, odd man rush. 5 minutes later, Oilers get the whole momentum. That's what makes it. If you're not a hockey fan, if you really watch the game and get into all those little details, exciting because it can, and that's where I would like listen to the game. I was traveling back from Houston, 2-0. You listen to the second, like, man, they're just killing him, out hitting him, out playing him, winning faceoffs. Like, but then 3-1, then it was 2-1. I'm like, oh fuck, okay, don't let him. Then they made it 3-1. So I was like, okay. But then as soon as it was 3-2, it crept even in my mind as a fan. I'm like, mother, these guys get back in it. You needed to stranglehold them, but you gave them hope. Little things started coming together. All of a sudden, the commentators like, man, LA's had it in Edmonton's zone the whole time. They're not the game. And you're like, fuck. And then I'm watching because I can't hear it. I'm on the plane, so I don't and I'm watching, but I can't see the video. And I'm listening to it because that's free. I didn't want to pay for the Sportsnet app. Going then, right? 3-3-50. I'm like, fuck! Right? And all these people are looking in their first game, and I'm like, these motherfuckers, let them tie it with 15 seconds. Block that. I had no trust in overtime. I'm like, fuck. Especially the curse. Bob Stauffer goes, man, won in overtime. I'm like, that's the worst. When I've seen it. I can't tell you fucking 100 in overtime, but you don't score. It's like that fucking stupid shot. It's like, oh, they dump it in from center. Oh, fuck. Like, don't, like, whenever, if you don't score in overtime, you lose. Like, you can say, we're out one stupid shot that can deflect off 4 players and fucking go in and win. Oilers even have a deal cheering. I'm like, yes, it's over. I'm high-fiving my son. They're like, wait. They're saying it's a high stick. Dude, he's saying it's all back. I'm like, fuck. Like, that one was just everything that a playoff
You
game
said fuck a lot, yes.
It.
You said fuck a lot a couple of days ago. Fuck, motherfucker, fuck, screaming, fuck on the plane, fuck, motherfucker, fuck, all the way home, fuck.
Yeah, good, fuck.
The funny thing too, right? Like, here's another sort of angle that makes it interesting. We're used to watching McDavid take over games, like completely, even when he's not scoring, completely dominate everybody on the ice, skate circles around guys. And we're used to it. It's 10 years now here in Edmonton. Last night or on Tuesday night, or Monday night, sorry, first 2 periods, McDavid ran that game. He no points, kept off the scoreboard, completely ran the game in the first 2 periods, and they still ended up losing. And again, we talked about this, and I think that's what I love about this sport. It's frustrating because we have 2 of the best players in the NHL, right? But they can't win if everybody else doesn't show up. It is such a team sport, and it, you know what? Baseball, one guy can win a series, one guy can win a game, one guy can win you know what I mean? Basketball, one guy. I mean, football, obviously, you got too many players, but you can have some highlight performances from football. But hockey is very unique in that regard, and it just because you have the most skilled player on the ice, it does not mean. And that's the beautiful thing about hockey, man.
It is.
Yeah, the way it's assembled, right? Yeah.
What makes it when you're on the winning, things are as they say, the puck's bouncing your way and you're getting puck luck and things are happening. An awesome ride to go on, but you can just feel it go against you. It's like little things. One bad play can just shift the momentum in the way that it's played. So shift happens tonight, and we see the Oilers fucking come back in righteous fashion.
Yeah, I hope it happens tonight. I hope the Oilers win. I think 8:00 game time. Oilers Kings game 2. If you could talk to some Oilers. Are you going to the game? You look like you got a lot of flair on there, Scorgie. Are you going to the game tonight?
No, I've got going to jiu-jitsu and stuff like that.
All right. You just wear your Oilers jersey around on game day and your Oilers hat? Yeah, okay, that's good.
I'm a proud fan. I'm a fucking loyal fan. I've been there. Hey, I lived in BC in the dark days. You couldn't even, by November, they were out of the playoffs statistically. And I had to just hear it from. So I now that the team is good, I wore it then, I wear it now. So
yeah, and I was thinking about that the other day because I was talking to a buddy of mine and he's like, I just want to get out of the first round. And I'm like, I remember talking to him 6-7 years ago when it was the doldrums. Like, it was just a joke, right? Where it was the team was shit. Jeff Finger was our best player. I mean, it was a carousel of idiocy. And I remember him saying this to me where he's like, I just want to have a playoff team. And I'm like, okay, you got a playoff team. Now you just want to get out of the first round. He's like, you know what he said to me? I was talking to him on the phone and she goes, why don't you just shut the fuck up and watch the game? And I'm like, okay. Anyway, Adam Scorgie's here. Go Oilers, go tonight. Hopefully you guys keep the garbage off the ice. If you do lose, that was very embarrassing.
Stupid.
Yeah, it was great. I got a video of it, by the way. This is it.
That's an absolute embarrassment.
There's some bottles, there's some other stuff. These guys just crushing his beer. There you go.
Did they, after that penalty call, wasn't there a bit of a break? I wasn't up, so I'd passed out. I had to get up at 4 o'clock.
I was only listening, but I could hear Stoffer and them saying, "Oh, people are being stupid, throwing." That culture needs to change. Like, we used to be proud that we had a good fan base. Like, that shit needs to change. Yes, trust me, I get as mad as anybody else, right? Nobody likes to lose. I hate that. I'm competitive in sports and jiu-jitsu and hockey, but you have to lose with humility, and that shit to players are mad. So stop that shit. People throwing jerseys and shit too. I was through those dark days cheap. I spent $300 on jersey. I might change the names or something like that, but I'm not throwing that. Stop. Cheer.
Yeah.
Want this to go on a good ride. Cheer. Right. Just to go both ways. And if Kings, yeah, I'll be fucking as mad as anybody else. But you know, there's young players on that team as well. And trust me, you'll see McDavid and all those guys that are no one's more competitive than those guys. And as pissed as they are, and comes right after, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do, right? That's where I fighting aspect in a little more. I think it helps people a little more accountable. You're getting a little bit more douchebaggery in the league and punch in the mouth if you're an asshole, right? You can kind of get away with it a little bit more. So I think that a little bit more too. We don't fight like we used to now. Everything's lawsuits and weapons. Where it's good. Also deserves a punch in the face every once in a while. It'd
be nice to go back to that, eh? It'd be nice to go back to that time when, once again, like when your dad would be like, "Well, just punch him out," and you'd be like, "Well, will that fix it?" He's like, "Probably," and sure enough, it did. Where you're like, "Okay, I guess I got to sock you in the face." You learned a lesson. I learned a lesson. Everybody moves on. We shake hands. We go forward.
Or get punched. Like I had someone even challenge me on that. Like, you'd be okay with your kid getting hit in the face? I'm like, if asshole, and he's trying to get in someone's face, and someone hits him and he can't defend himself, absolutely. As long as he's not getting bullied, like, you can't defend yourself, you're gonna mount up and be a prick to somebody else. And I've even had that with the brothers. My oldest son is really, really good at jiu-jitsu, right? And he's doesn't like to, very kind of a video game nerd, but can strangle you if he wants to. And his younger brother, kicking him in the balls, kneeing him, flicking his ears, and one day I finally had to back him. He's like, "Oh, I can beat up Ryder." I'm like, "No, you can't. Ryder's just way too nice. Ryder can kill you. You can beat him." So I did what any good dad did. I'm like, "Okay, well, let's prove it. Let's you guys
fight.
have a match here. No punching face." But I said, "Hey, you guys can go at it." And the rule was, I just said to do is last for 2 minutes and not get submitted. Ryder's not allowed to strike, and neither are you. Last for 2 minutes. Again, my son's a yellow belt in jiu-jitsu. He's won several provincial. He submits him in like 27 seconds. And I was like, "See, Beckham, now see how nice your brother is to you when you're always stirring it with you at any time." But he doesn't. He has control. So then Beckham took 1 week of doing some shit. I want you to set up another match with me and Ryder. I'm like, "Buddy, Ryder's been doing this for you. He's bigger and older." He's like, No, Dad, I know some stuff now." And then Ryder submitted him in 15 seconds. This time, I let Ryder squeeze a little longer. I'm like, no. Teach him a lesson. Show him. I'm like, the world has consequences here. I'm big for that with most giving. I put my kids in anything they want to do as far as they want to chase their dreams. But I think everybody's kind of missing every once in a while. We think everything's handed to us too much. And those people that like, I'm a free speech absolutist. But if you get in the wrong person's face, you start saying some shit in the face, you start using racial slurs and stuff like, "Oh my God, he punched me in the face." I'm like, "Yeah, because you're an asshole." It should be like that. Sports, you just go, "Yep, this guy was an asshole. You got a smack in the face," to the other guy for smacking him in the face. Like,
yeah.
But we've got
so
pressure where guys in your face bait you. You then defend yourself or smack a guy, and then he sues you for thousands of dollars. To me, I think it humbles people really quickly. When you learn, we were just down in Texas. I brought him down to an open mat, and he's been killing everybody lately in the provincial tournament. So he fought these two kids, and they humbled him very quickly. He got submitted both times by a little lighter than him, and he doesn't know how to handle it. He was crying right away, and the other parents like, "Oh my God, your kid okay. And the only thing that's hurt right now is his ego because he wasn't used to getting beat like that, right? So I give my those tears away. I'm like, are you injured? Are we going to the doctor right now? Are you hurt? And then he's like, no, I want to keep going. It's okay to be. I'm not upset that like losing sucks and losing an individual sport because I box competitively does. But hold that in your heart. Do not cry and make everybody think you're or pretend you're hurt. Unless it's okay to be hurt emotionally and you want to be better and you want to do that, that's great. That's a good competitor. But hurt and they're coming over with water and stuff like that. I'm like, stop that. And you can see he's like wiping his tears and me. You're not hurt. Are we going to the doc? If you're hurt, we're going to the doctor and you're out. And then he's like, no, I'm fine. But this is what it teaches. Right after that, he's wiping the tears and he challenged the same kid that just got him. He's like, you and me. They're like, yeah, I want you again. Let's go. And we go at it again. My son got pretzeled again. Love that you're going back and you're wiping the tears. That's how you improve. You learn from your mistakes as a person. You don't point to the world made mistakes or I couldn't do this or that. No, you. That's sports for boys more than anything because there's no excuses. There's no refs. There's no your team. You got me. He got you. Right? Yeah. You need to get better.
Dude, you bring up you bring up like a great example, like even just talking about your kids, sore losers. Like all I was telling Lockham, all Twitter is today is a bunch of sore loser Leaf fans. All Twitter was 2 days ago was a bunch of sore loser Oiler fans. It's like, fuck, dude, you got beat. You just lost. Like, you're not as good as the other team. That's what the score dictates. Maybe you are in general, but you weren't on that night. And the game that I watched last night, it was like a beating from fucking puck drop to the last buzzer in the third fucking period. It didn't end. And I was embarrassed to be a fucking Leaf fan today because I logged on and it's like, Wes McCauley has refereed the last 8 Leaf playoff losses. And the conspiracy theory between him and Sheldon Keefe has never been
I love shit
thicker.
like this, though. I'm
like, oh, okay. Like, this goes back to 2008. Is a Barry Colt? Is that what you're like, dude, I'm serious. Like, that's all Leaf fans are talking about. I'm like, you guys are the biggest pussies on the planet. It, like, made me embarrassed. Same way when you're watching people throw pizza on the ice after a Leaf loss because it's like, I don't know how to handle myself emotionally. I guess I need to throw this thing in my hand on the ice to show my displeasure. It's like, you guys are a fucking embarrassment. Those players know they didn't play well enough. Those players know that they lost. And you're showing your displeasure or your anger because you have no ability to have a fucking conversation. And you make everybody look like assholes. And I'm a big fan of, like, you know, stadium fights. I love those things. Like, I don't know if you watch the NFL. Every Monday, they're like, here are the best fights from every NFL stadium from this weekend. And I'm like, good, because some guy probably did something stupid. Someone probably reached over and popped him in the face and said, quit being a fucking poor sport. Quit being an asshole. But it's like we're inundated, and it means so much to us every time the playoffs show up. People can't control themselves, man. They go nuts. It's like every loss of a team.
Alcohol too, right?
Well, yeah, the booze probably fucking helped, specifically in Edmonton.
Yeah. alcohol makes people stupid. You still in a nightclub. There's some just idiots. Or I think I told you guys that line when I worked the door and I boxed competitively, right? And was to use your words and, you know, diffuse the situation and get them out the door. And nine times I didn't gifted enough talker when I did IKEA. But, you know, you always had that 10% that then they get out and it's always realize their night's like ending or they're not allowed. And then they start getting like talking and
aggro.
I'd say the line to guys. I'm like, dude, your fists and getting physical. I'm like, they don't put me on the door because I'm a pussy. And if you're able to get by me, and then if you get by the army of my team, then you're still going to go to jail because now we're like drunk asshole tried to attack us. We got the problem outside of the bar. He then attacked us at that point. If he's going to do that, so we can use real reasonable force. If you come back, so watch your eyes. I'm like, I will pay. I even offered, I'm like, I will pay for your cab. Get in the cab, go sleep it off, come back tomorrow. You're welcome. But you come back here in an aggressive way and you take a shot at one of our team. Pretty bad night for you, and you don't want to go down that path.
How is it every time we have you on, we end up telling stories about how many guys' ass you kicked when you were a doorman?
I like it.
Okay, I'm trying not to lose and people being idiots, and they're just
yeah. Dude, yeah, there's no ability to reason. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about this new documentary you've got coming out on May the 3rd. You've got a release date for this doc, which I am very excited to see. It's called Thunder, Life and Death of Arturo Gotti. Of course, if you know anything about Adam Scorgie, one of Canada's most prolific documentarians. And I read a lot about Arturo Gotti. And if you're a Canadian, back when Arturo Gotti was like Arturo Gotti, right? The trilogy with Mickey Ward. If you watched the training for the last fight of the trilogy with Mickey Ward, like I watched an entire documentary series just from Mickey Ward's perspective of what he was going to go up against with Arturo Gotti. And I know you talked to Mickey Ward in the series, but he's got one of the most fascinating lives. He is one of the greatest Canadian boxers ever, not named Lennox Lewis. But his death was like an incredibly suspicious event as well. The connection between Italy, connection to Montreal, obviously in Canada, New Jersey. Tell me about the documentary, and you got like exclusive access with not just his family, but also investigators, and the story that you told from your perspective, again, May 3rd, Thunder, the life and death of Arturo Gotti. The story that you told wasn't told from a perspective of, oh, this was just a nice story. There's some meat to that bone still, is there not?
Yeah, so this is the first like true crime tackled, and it came to us from that's why we're doing the first premieres at the Cal April 29th, because Brenda, the head programmer there, she had met with a team out of Montreal, Guillaume Carlier, who's the director, and Alex Orlando, who's the other person, to do the story on Gotti, right? They're like, there's never been anything really good done on Arturo. Thing on the trilogy from Mickey Ward's perspective, but nothing really done on Arturo. So I was on the festivals like, oh, Adam, you know, one of the best documentary film teams is right up there in Edmonton. You should do these kind of fighting docs and stuff like that. I think it'd be perfect. So we went, and I never done the true crime thing. So these are around that, and how do you do it? And talked to my legal team because I was interested where Arturo Gotti was. I didn't realize he was Canadian though, because even that shows how poorly everything done was here, because they always say that he's born in Italy, but he was born in Montreal. We found his birth certificate, and he was like, the investigation, we'll get to that. That is an absolute debacle. But you know, when Guillaume and Alex brought this to me, I was fascinated to learn, like, wow, I didn't know that. Hearing about the death and that it was suspicious and everything went around there, but the more this is just horrible reporting done on here. And because Arturo didn't skate, unfortunately, like, he really didn't get the coverage and stuff that he deserved. And I don't know if either of you guys are aware of this. I wasn't until we started doing research, and it's kind of disappointing, but handles this. So if you are a Canadian and you die in a foreign country, Canada will know the official cause of death that other country gives to you. So if you die in one of these countries and you shot yourself in the head 55 times, and that's the official cause to Canada, that will be the official cause of death that Canada stands behind when it
That's amazing. I had no idea.
Well, anybody that can shoot themselves in the head 55 times is very talented.
Well, you get what I'm saying, right? Like, if it's a ridiculous way on purpose, is it? But if you go right to the Canadian government website, it says that we will never investigation. If you ever die outside of the country, our authorities, our government does nothing.
So I know, just knowing you've been working on this one for a long time. Did this doc take you a significant amount more time than what you're used to with the projects that you're putting together?
No, actually, we did this in a unique way. It was in the East Coast, right? Between Montreal, Boston, New York area. So they're partnered with here, Kino some. They were like, Adam, rather than going back and forth and travel costs, plus COVID made it very difficult, and like you had to get different vaccines and this and that. And why don't we just go spend a whole month, shoot the whole month? I think it was last June and July, kind of rolled. So we did like a week in Montreal, week in Boston, a week in New Jersey, and we just did the whole month and had to do one pickup shot, which was Brent Turvey. That's a private investigator. It's part thing. We had to get him in Mexico, and he met us in Texas. But other than that, we shot it where the time, obviously, when you're dealing with a true crime story and the clearances click a while on this one. Our entertainment lawyers, we wanted to be really diligent on the information accurate that we could prove to the best of the scientific, and research that was available. Or on the clearance side that we were covered, right? In case there's any litigation, we always want to be protected. So insurance is in place, and if anything happens, we're ready. But it curve of what we had to kind of go through. That was the biggest new challenge.
So the circumstances around Arturo Gotti's death have been conspicuous, to say the least. My understanding is that about 10 years ago, Gotti was found hanged in his room that he shared with his wife and his son. He was in Brazil, and he was hanged with the strap of his wife's purse. Correct?
Correct.
And the official cause of death for Arturo Gotti is suicide. But there have been multiple investigations, and I want some details around that. When you went down there and you started opening this up, was it like, maybe it's one of those stories where it's like, she says this, Arturo Gotti's wife says this, investigators say that, the police say this. It's probably fine. Was it fine? Like, when you get into it, at any point in time, did you go, holy shit, this is unreal?
Many times. So starting with what I kind of said earlier, when you realize how sloppy the investigation was, it's released that we were like, we're doing this. We had to correct some Canadian publications because they're like, oh, he's born in Italy. We're like, no, he's not. He's born in Montreal. And they're like, no. And we're like, no, that's what you found on Wikipedia. It's incorrect. Here's his passport. Born in Montreal. So, like, thing after, like, incident after it happens, is not brought to the attention. And I don't know, other than it was like when news kind of changed journalism to just being first to get clickbaits. If I'm trying to say there's no malicious, like biases behind it, would be the only excuse. Because you mentioned filmmakers, we found them right away. We're like, oh, it's right there. It's right there. It's right there. How did they miss it? Because it was about being first and instead of being right. And you're partly right. So our widow, Amanda, was charged for his murder. But then the head released from the investigation, and then she was released, and then they said he committed suicide. I have an investigation that was done where they hired Paul and a few other people and a whole bunch of us through it. It is, I don't want to spoil the series, but you can definitively Arturo did not hang himself and commit suicide. The big humdingers just out there is that Cyril Wecht, who's 94, still sharp as a whip, one of the guys that worked on this strangulation case. And for me, I'm always as a documentary guy that tries to be as unbiased. I said, guys, the only way I'm going to go into this is if we go in this completely unbiased and just let.
Yeah, you're not trying to drive a narrative. You're like, there's no wrong answer for what you're going to tell me. I just want the answers and the truth, right? So you can paint a great story.
Well, and it always makes the best documentary when you are as you go, and you're like, oh my God, that's crazy. Oh my God, how did we, like, you're like, because those ringer moments for you are what they're going to be for the general audience too. So Cyril Wecht, getting back to him, this is the one for me that I was like, well, that defines it. So in action cases that he's done, when you hang yourself by and you hang yourself, whatever you killed yourself with, in all of his victims, is always rigor mortis sets in, and the weight, and it almost, the way your neck and the way your body stiffens, it almost, whether the noose or whatever it is that you hung yourself. Arturo, in the photo, he's on the floor of blood, and the purse strap is like 4 or 5 feet away from him. So you hang yourself. If you died by strangulation from hanging, it would still be around your neck. You would have been off. So to me, it's like in the hundreds of cases I've done, I've never seen that. So in my professional, strangled and didn't hang himself. And then there's a million other details on the floor. There's a huge gash on his head. This is in the police report and everything. It's like, okay, he's talking to you guys now. If you hang yourself and you got a giant gash on your head that's pouring blood going to be on your body. I don't know, for those that aren't in, if you're hanging, it'll be all over your back and your shoulders and your legs and your calves, because it's out of the back of your head and it's bleeding on his body. It's all on the floor. So it just doesn't, like, if you all the criminal investigators will just say, in fact, the one guy, Brett Turvey, and this is why we had to interview him at the end, teaches now, and he's like, I teach this as one of the most botched cases, horrendous. He puts it this way, which is another great term. He said, okay, you get the call, there's a dead body, you show up, right? There's people there. In this case, it's the widow. You believe she's a victim. First thing you should do is remove her from the crime scene to not contaminate every story, to make sure that she's protected. If she's a potential perp, the first thing you should do is remove her from the crime scene to keep all the evidence intact so that you can charge. In both cases, in the crime report, she's serving beer to the police and cover Arturo's body. She's boiling a chain. When the lead investigator got out, why are you guys moving? Like, you guys shouldn't have been touching anything in here, right? It was just from the get-go. The investigation or research done was botched, and then the family helped very little, because they're like, guys, we've just been so wounded by the Canadian media and just how they manipulated our interviews and just really wanted to drive this narrative side that, they were very skeptical. Even till now, they started to say, man, looks really good. Thank you for not giving up on my brother. And all those things were like, thank you for finding. All the investigators were so willing to talk about it, because they were all like, yes, we couldn't believe it just got thrown under the rug. And it was like, nah, that's cool. You guys did all that. We kind of the CTE thing and pugilistic dementia. We're going to just go with that.
Yeah, because that was the case, right? They were talking CTE and dementia. Sorry, Locke, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's easy to hang that kind of stuff and it's not a pun, but it's easy to hang like CTE on a boxer who dies early under suspicious circumstances. Sorry, Locke, go ahead.
It's funny though that as soon as you mentioned the purse straps, that it triggers a lot of memories, because and it's interesting. Like, I know enough about this story to sort of be filling in the gaps when you're talking, right? And was there ever a point where you were like looking over your shoulder, or you're up late one night because the kid's up and you see a car drive by the front of the house, or the phone rings and just hangs up?
No, because we're in Canada, but it was a big choice for us not to go to Brazil. That was a fixer and a local media guy down there. We brought him up here, all the challenges of COVID and everything, because going down there and seeing kind of the corruption down there, I was like, I do not recommend we go down there and start asking questions.
Maybe Brazil isn't part of the storyline here.
Well, so when you finish this documentary, and by the way, Adam Scorgie, we're talking to him, one of Canada's greatest documentarians, Thunder, the life and death of Arturo Gotti under very suspicious circumstances, about a decade ago. It comes out May 3rd. We'll get to distribution in a second where people can get it. But at any point in time, were you like, was it the wife? Was it the mafia? Like, did you go down that road where you're like, okay, this is suspicious, but what are the possibilities about this guy's death if it is suspicious?
Absolutely. We'll never know what exactly happened in that room, but here are the suspicious details. So Arturo and his widow had already been separated for over a year in a separate apartment. He actually had another girlfriend. The last known photo of Arturo's with him on the beach with another guy to interview. And then no one close to Arturo can understand exactly down to Brazil to visit his widow. They don't understand. They said it was to try to make up and everything. He brought Arturo Jr., the son, down there. So the son was in he was in the room. It's another reason why it's like, really? So Arturo, him and Amanda went out that night. She came home with the kid, or no, Arturo still had Arturo Jr. He was already home, puts the kid in the crib and decides to kill himself. Don't think so. So there never know exactly who, and for legal reasons I can't point the finger, but it dates that there's foul play involved, because the will was changed 2 weeks before he went down. It was a new had used another lawyer almost his entire life and changed the will, and he'd removed a lot of his other daughtership with Erica Sophia, who we interview Erica and Sophia in the film, and even she said, I've never seen Arturo. She has a very powerful line, being that, I just don't think men ever suspected, which is a great line. And you start learning about even the term Black widows. So they get killed in foreign countries from North America all the time, so frequently before it happens, that the term Black widow was created for these women. So I think you guys will kind of see where the evidence suggests things go.
I'm excited to watch this document. Go ahead. Sorry.
We don't ever go exactly. We can never say definitively, here is the thing, but we can definitively say that Arturo did not commit suicide in the way they describe. Yeah. They try to rebuild this in the exact hotel room. They tried it with the purse strap. It failed. Either the purse strap wasn't long enough and wouldn't work to be able to tie around the post. Did it and used a dummy of Arturo's weight. It kept breaking the purse strap. So there was no. That's what all the evidence will tell you, is that there's no way that he hung himself. Like how he died, asphyxiation. He was strangled. What the science would suggest that he was hit over the head on the giant gash, and all the blood on the floor came from. And when he was unconscious, he was strangled to death.
Mm. Does this give you a taste for this type of story?
True crime?
Yeah. Does it give you do you have a little bit of a bug to dig into other stories like this?
And can we voice the podcast series version of this movie? Is that okay with you?
Look at that. But definitely it was exciting and unique to go through it all. There's parts I like, and parts that are stressful. Is that Arturo does have a son, and you're always thinking about it as a father myself. I'm like, oh, and it's like, you're cognizant of him.
His son's a little bit boxer too. Like I caught a video of him, and apparently he's got chops training with Mike Tyson. Did you guys see this?
Yeah.
Look at this.
He's a great. Yep. He mimics his. It's crazy, even like the hands and the aggressive style, and it's and that's one of Lou DiBella said, as the boxing promoter. He kind of says, okay, if Arturo did have CTE, and there's no question that but I'm sure if you checked it with the wars that he had signs of it, like that there's no question damage there. If you believe in that, and you believe that pugilistic dementia is ultimately what made him take, you really want to put your son back into the same thing and carry his name and fight the same style, and I sure as hell wouldn't as a father. Like that to me is just really, like, you want to put him Arturo Jr. Like he's
another link in the story, isn't it? That's kind of like an unspoken tangible here. Yeah.
You want to put him down the same path that ultimately led to your father's demise. To me, that just my wife would just be like, well, I would I could just see her yelling at me now. So we're going to do the same other, like we're going to put our son, no way.
Yeah, but that happens on the daily though, doesn't it? The decision making, you in the house and your wife screaming at you, going, "What the fuck are you doing? Are you new?"
I can't do anything less wrong.
Yeah. I know it. I know the feeling. Listen, I'm really excited for this documentary. I think that the little that we knew about him, and it was funny because when Locke sent me a note, he's like, hey, you want to talk to Scorgie about this new Gotti documentary? And I'm like, yeah, I do, because there was one of those stories. There are several of them that exist for years and years and years, where it's a story that everybody goes, there it is. You know, like, you sure that's a story? I know a little bit of this. Yeah. And then you might hear something a few years later, and then you might see something, and then all of a sudden a documentary comes out 10 years later, and you're like, oh, these guys are going to dig into it because they don't have any vested interest other than telling this story, right? And telling this story is so fucking, everything that I've read about it, you know, is nothing matches up according to the cause of death and the reason that he died, right? Like absolutely nothing. And so over the past couple of years, it's not that I've been a Gotti guy or looking into it, but when he told me that you were doing this doc, I'm like, that's one of those stories. It's kind
fairly
of
new story too, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what's interesting about it as well. It's not something that you uncovered from the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Is the kid? Go, Adam. I was going to say, was the kid born in Canada?
Yeah.
So he's Canadian. Ah, there we go. That's
Canadian. Yeah, he was. They were. That's another thing that's going to go for a while because that's where Arturo's family is. But the family has little to no. They have no contact with the widow. There's no love lost there whatsoever. And there's, I mean, kind of like you nailed there, Dean, and that when you start, so much of it was right there, and we're like, what? Why didn't nobody talk about that? That's right there on a crime report, like just really sloppy reporting. Again, I bring it back to like, how did he have to be? You say that he's born in Italy when he was born in Montreal.
Yeah,
like his passport.
Well, but like usually people are scared. Like that's the thing. Usually people are afraid to actually investigate those things for like legitimate reasons, right?
Dean, you nailed it. But I think it's less for the reasons you think is that what I'm learning about, and I hope it kind of stays this way because it allows my team to be successful, is that Canadian media is so adverse that they are like, oh no, if we can't get pure clearance and they want to touch it, right? Like, no, it's too whoa. You want to ask real questions and figure out what happened? No, just kind of put a nice little massage on it, say that we covered it. You know what network this is like? They don't want to push the barrier. It's great. Allow me and my team. We'll sink in. We'll actually talk. You know, decades of experience have handled tons of strangulation suits. We'll interview them in depth and really get their opinions and really look at the affidavits and information story. You know, and what we, with the director Guillaume and them, really wanted to do on top of right for Arturo and his family is that it's a way to really remember an amazing Canadian. You said at the top, Dean, he's one of the greatest boxers. Like if you were to name the 3 greatest to ever come out of Canada, Chevalo, Lennox Lewis, and
Gotti.
Like they're talking Atlantic City. We interviewed the mayor of Atlantic City, and he said that other than Mike Tyson, God draws in there because it was the whole Irish, Italian, hardworking. That's one of any boxer, and they'll all be like, oh, that's one of the greatest boxer or boxing fan. They'll say the greatest trilogy in boxing with no title shot on the line. There's no title. Those guys just went to war. Right. And
well, he was a brawler too, from what I remember. Like, yeah.
But so is did you not? Have you seen the documentary about the trilogy? Have you seen? Have you watched it, Scorgie? Have you seen
it? In the series,
the mutual respect that these two guys have and had for each other, and how tough they were, and how hard they trained for that third fight. It was like it moved me. Like it was an emotional thing, wasn't
it? They're best of friends. Like that's where we just talked to Mickey, and he said, if I come up for any all one, because I want to see Arturo's family, right? Like the two of them are best of friends, and because he actually had, I've never heard of this. Him and Arturo went to war so bad that Mickey's brain actually out of position. He had to have a surgery because his brain got rattled out of position in his skull thing. Right, like
never heard of
and after the fight,
I might have that.
I might have. I was like, but that just comes from me falling my head, not from going to war. And
No, not.
Or road rage incidents. Yeah,
But-
yeah, I get
Punched
it.
a lot.
Arturo, like Mickey starts crying in the series because he's like, Arturo talked to me after the fight and knew I was hurt. And they're like, are you okay? Like, we went to war in the ring, but afterwards they became the best of friends. Other fights, like they shared so much blood and damage with him, inseparables, almost brothers, the two of them. Like, there's so much adoration for them. That's always in the pugilistic sports of, you don't always have to be enemies. In this case, Mickey's interview is incredibly powerful in this one. It will bring you to tears. We're lucky we got him. He was all over the place, but we couldn't do the film without him.
Yeah, I got a little clip here. This is Mickey Ward with a word on John Gotti. Let's watch it.
99.9% of people don't get back up. He got back up, though, and fought harder. Do I think he did? No, I don't.
How you doing, brother? She told him, I'll kill this guy if I get him in Brazil.
All the facts, all the evidence shows that nobody entered in the room. And the only person that was me, my son, and of course, neither my son and I could do that.
The Arturo Gotti case has a lot of moving parts. And most people think that because they see a news segment or see an article in the paper, that they have a firm grasp of what's going on. This case is complicated. It has a lot of moving parts. And if you think you know what happened, you don't.
Hey, that gives you chills. Release Gotti, Thunder, Life and Death of Arturo Gotti. When is it? May 3rd? Is that what I understand?
So we're going to do the Edmonton premiere. So all those that are listening from Edmonton, please get your ticket. Locke, let me know if you want tickets. I'll comp you guys some tickets. Come to the premiere there. But then May across Canada, a Super Channel premiere. It's a Super Channel original. I have to give mad love to us and indie filmmakers better than any broadcaster in Canada. They don't get in the way as far as trust it. So May 14th, tune in and there. And if you don't have Super Channel, get a free month. I highly recommend that you do. Super Channel literally is the only channel in Canada, and they support indie filmmaker work. Like my team, they've done just about everything we've done. There is no better indie film supporter than that network, which is owned right here by Albertans. Tune in May 14th, or if you can make the premiere May 3rd, or if you can come to the Calgary Underground Film Festival. That's
awesome.
I will
Thanks,
see
dude.
you on May 3rd.
Yeah.
I'll send you a note,
and
Adam.
I'll see it on Super Channel because I have it. What's that?
Yeah, it's awesome, Dean. I'd love to know what we can follow up and then out on the 14th. Love to get your and Locke, send me what you guys need for you in the locker room. I'll get you guys taken.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
buddy.
you.
Adam Scorgie, Scorgie Productions. Check out Thunder, which is the life and death of Arturo Gotti, May the 3rd in Edmonton. If you're there, hit him up on Twitter as well. Adam Scorgie, just like it says here, Scorgie, Adam Scorgie on Twitter, and check him out there. And again, Super Channel May 14th, widely available. So make sure you get Super Channel. Dude, appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.
Great seeing you, Adam.
Try not to beat anybody up on the way home today. If you can do that, that'd be great.
I'll do that now. They're the jiu-jitsu guys. I'm an old guy now. I don't have much left.
All right.
Oh.
No, I know. Dude, I can't wait to talk to you again to get another story about this one time this guy cut me off.
I don't want to try to sound like a hero because I'm nothing special. I'll try to stories, but they are always entertaining.
That's why we love having you, dude. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Great to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
See you,
Appreciate it.
Any point in time. Adam Scorgie, filmmaker, documentarian. Thunder, The Life and Death of Arturo Gotti, available May 3rd, anywhere.
I was surprised when I heard he was behind that one.
I want to do the podcast of that.
Yeah, that'd be very cool. Yeah.
What a great fucking podcast series. Uncovering what's going on. I think we can actually, I don't think it would take a lot of work either because it's all spoken word, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be really good. But yeah, dude, like the story of this guy is fucking incredible. And do yourself a favor. Go to YouTube, pump in Mickey Ward, Arturo Gotti trilogy, and watch one of 3 fights. Watch them all 3.
Yeah.
This is old school, you, me, we're going to have a feat of strength to see, and they love each other. We're going to beat the living shit out of each other for as long as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And it went forever. Both of those fights went forever. All three of those fights were like old school, like, you know, wars. You would see Hagler Hearns, like where guys got in the ring and they would just beat the shit out of each other. And if he got lucky to clip a guy on the chin, or generally speaking, no guy just wanted to go down because it was like he'd rather die. And that's what those fights are. Both of those guys would have rather have died than lost. And they both almost died in all three fights. Like, it's just, it's moving. It like makes you cry almost. It's like watching Earl Campbell run. Same thing.
The exciting thing about where we're at now with boxing is that we got the Paul brothers that are hopefully revitalizing the sport.
Have you watched a boxing match? And by the way, Arturo Gotti career ended at the hands of one Floyd Mayweather Jr., if you remember that a long time ago.
I am not I'm not a huge UFC or boxing fan, if I'm being honest. So when you start talking about these fights, I do have memories of them because I watch sports highlights, and a lot of this stuff I would not have tuned into live. I don't know. I'm not a big, like, if there's a big UFC, like GSP's the last fight, you know, I'll go to the bar and I'll watch that, but I'm not watching every week like a lot of guys do. I find that kind of violence, I don't like to have it in my life all the time. I'll watch a big boxing match, but it's interesting when you start talking about these stories, you know, like just even seeing a clip of Ward there. I mean, I remember these guys. They're yeah.
I do too. It was like, and I wasn't a boxing guy. It was like back in the day when Tyson was still the guy and boxing was a thing and MMA wasn't a thing, and these guys were getting paid $20-30 million you know, just to fight each other. It was non-title fights. Like, these were the biggest non-title fights you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it was like back when guys were getting this crazy money that guys get now for UFC and boxing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But that's the golden age, right? Like, that was it. And his life story is incredible. So if you get a chance to watch it, May 14th, Super Channel, Thunder, Life and Death of Arturo Gotti. Do it. I love supporting anything our friend Adam Scorgie does.
The thing about Adam too, like he's an interesting cat, and I just love the fact that he's like he lives 15 minutes away from me here in Edmonton, and is the reason and the guy behind like a number of unbelievable award-winning docs. The work that they do is just it's absolutely phenomenal. We've got some great storytellers in this country, and he just keeps building on his story. Like he just keeps rolling, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why I asked him if he would be interested in continuing to do this type of a story, this true crime stuff, right? Because the way he tells stories and the way they put, and if you watch his stuff, you can tell that there's a through line there, that the same people put it together, right? Because there's that quality and there's this approach that he has to what he's done in the past, and you can kind of, and that's a sign of a guy, an artist, right? And he's a producer, but he's got a team, and they do some unbelievable work. They do some really cool projects.
Yeah, they do. And you're right. You know, like, to have a company like that and that theme that goes through all of his work, which is, hey, I want to tell stories other people are afraid to tell, don't want to tell. I want to uncover things that other people don't want to uncover. Like Coco, Grant Fuhr's story, right?
Yeah.
That was a tough story to tell. Like Grant, have you seen it? Grant had some pretty honest moments in that documentary, and those are stories that were running around Edmonton for a long time, probably piqued his interest, right? Adam is a documentarian and an Oilers fan and a Grant Fuhr fan, and so he gets that rare kind of opportunity to go in and talk to these people and to sit down and say, hey, I'm really interested in this as a person. I just happen to be able to tell your story, right? And so that's what I love about him. I love that he's as inquisitive as he is, and I love the fact that he continues to put out work that other people are afraid to do, right? The Union.
Well, his
the
comment,
pot documentary that changed the way pot was done was widely panned after he did it, and then it ended up being used in government panels to be able to say, hey, we should legalize cannabis. Like
he won't take credit for it, but many people have told him that if he hadn't have done that doc, that there is a good chance that the legalization of marijuana would not have happened in this country.
Do you know why? Because it educated people who had the ability to make a decision to legalize cannabis.
Exactly.
And those people, by and large, don't want to be educated according to the group messaging that they have to carry with them, right? And that is how change happens, is we actually go out, do the work, find different pieces of information, put it at the forefront, and we say, hey, everybody, you should be interested in this because this is a story that no one saw. Like the Arturo Gotti story. He's not lying when he says everybody is covering up what exactly happened because nobody wants to accuse anybody of anything, and it's settled, and they don't want to go back into settled. They don't want to give themselves more work. They would rather just let the story be the story. And Adam isn't comfortable letting the story be the story. And we need more people like that, not doing documentaries. We need people like that doing journalism in this country, but we don't have it. And the reason why we don't have it is because they work for people who give them their marching orders. The reason why Adam can do what he does is this is his business and he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Fascinating, isn't it?
His comment about media.
Where he's like, I'm glad media doesn't tell these stories. I'm glad they're pussies. I'm glad they're losers because it gives me a chance to go and dig deep and tell the story for real.
Well, I'll quote him verbatim. He said, media in this country is risk adverse. One of the biggest compliments, and somebody just gave this compliment to me a couple of weeks ago. They said, you're a difficult figure to be friends with in Canadian media. And I went, thank you. He goes, because you got to explain your friendship with me.
What do you mean?
Like, if you're in radio circles and you say you're a fan of me or you're friends with me, you got to explain yourself. He said, you're a complicated figure to be friends with. And I went, thank you. That means I blazed my own trail.
Exactly. You're one of those people.
You're in the same boat.
Absolutely. And I fucking love it. I don't have a side. I don't have a group. And here's the other thing. If someone's like, I didn't like what you tweeted, and I don't think I can follow you on Twitter because if people see that I follow you on Twitter, they'll come for me and go, what are you doing? Which happens all the time. It's like a Twitter thing. It's like a social media thing, right? Yeah, where people will like DM you going, I can't believe you're working with that guy. I can't believe you're doing business with that guy. It's literally the dumbest shit on the planet. Like people that go, it's hard to explain why I'm your friend. Those are people that you want nothing to do with ever for the rest of your life. Because if that matters to them, they're pieces of shit.
But I get it. When it comes to me, I understand it. I understand that difficulty explaining why you might hang out with me or why you might make time for me when you're in my town. I'm going to have a beer with Lachlan. Lachlan Cross? Really? Like really? You hang out with asshole? That guy?
You like him?
He's 69% asshole.
69%.
By the way, I'm going to leave that up there, even though I think 95% of the population won't understand what that means.
On your Twitter profile,
on my Twitter, 69%
asshole.
Asshole, yeah. What did you think of that whole Elon Musk thing?
I thought it was funny. Like where he was like, hey, by the way, 70% funded by government. He's like 70% government funded, and he changed the tag to say 69% government funded. I was dying laughing. That happened on Monday. We didn't have a show on Tuesday, and Elon's dicking because listen, the way I look at it, about 6% of this country are avid Twitter users. Will like use it like, to get the news, get information, like they think it's real.
And it's mostly hilarious. People in the business.
Yeah, it is.
That's the other thing about it.
Using like fake people to purport that they're real and important. Anyway, no one saw that. My point is this, is that like, if you read about it, you didn't read about it on Twitter. Like the whole idea that this is fucking a thing that we should be like somewhat upset about. Right? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I get, you know, government funding and why they did it. I get that, you know, Elon Musk, this is exactly why he did it. Because China said, hey, listen, we don't like the fact that all of our tweets are like state-funded media. We don't like that. And he's like, well, I can't change it. And they're like, well, then we won't give you our Shanghai Gigafactory. We're not going to open it up for you. And he's like, well, what if I do this? What if I tag a whole bunch of Western things with the same thing to kind of muddy the water? Would that make you happy? And they're like, you get your Gigafactory in Shanghai, dude.
Are you telling me that this is how it all played out?
Totally, 100%. It's the second that this happened, he announces he's got a new Gigafactory in China after he dinged BBC and NPR. Anyway, it's like really high level negotiations, if you ask me. It's like, yeah, I'll give you a Gigafactory in China if you do this for me. But the bottom line here, it doesn't matter because no one sees it because no one's on Twitter. Twitter is like the most poorly downloaded app out of every social media app in the world. And the assertion
that's why
that
I always wonder if we should be talking about it on even.
Well, we should
because give a shit.
Nobody, which is why I laugh when guys like Pierre are like, I've exposed the CBC. They've been given a government funding media account. CBC, just so everybody knows, not to go down this road. CBC is a brand, right?
Yeah.
They actually, in that brand, like CBC, it just says CBC, is not the news channel, right? That is not a media thing. That is their brand channel on Twitter. That's their brand account. That CBC brand account puts out all kinds of things like, you know, download Gem today so you can stream Little House on the Prairie. Hey, don't forget, there's a brand new version of the African beetle just landed in British Columbia. Get your first look at it. Like, there's nothing propaganda about CBC, like nothing. And on top, they do movies, they have streaming channels, they've got television channels, they've got kids programming. So anytime someone's like, defund the CBC, I always ask them which part. Like, because their news and information service is the smallest version of all of their profit. It's the smallest piece of what they do. Everything else is massive, right? The kids programming, the movies, the television shows, all the things that they greenlight, their grants, indigenous programming. And so some people, and this is how dumb people are, is that Pierre Poilievre jumps out and he's like, I expose these guys as propaganda. That's what he says here. Government-funded media propaganda. That's not even the fucking right account. It's the CBC News account. So they put government-funded media on the big account, and the big account is actually just a representation of the CBC brand that makes movies, television shows, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole idea that people are dancing on their grave when they literally can just turn around and dump all that into Facebook and not skip a beat is fucking laughable to me.
It's just red meat for the you know
that's
what?
all
People
it is. But
love
it's also red meat for the people on like the crazies who are like, don't touch my CBC. I'm like, who gives a shit? It's two words.
And
it doesn't matter, and we all knew, right?
I saw some people getting angry about the whole PP thing, and I was like, you're giving it power. Stop.
Yeah.
I mean, just ignore him. If you're feeding into exactly what he wants because he knows he doesn't have your vote. He did this to rally up his side, to bring energy to his because if you actually talk to people, there is a segment of the population that thinks that CBC should be blown up, and they don't know the ins and outs of it. But that's what again, Dean, that's the thing that they don't realize, that they just think that it's a big waste of money. And again, that's where I have a problem with it, because not that we need to go down this road again, because I've already done this.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that they do need to be brought to some sense of accountability with how they spend. And again, I get frustrated because the media landscape in this country has changed drastically in the last 20, 25 years, 30 years. They have not had to adapt. They continue to get handouts, and they continue to do business, and they continue to be as wasteful as they always have.
Can I just point this out, though? Can I point this out? Yes, that is accurate. Anybody government funded, any of those budgets, they have to stay at a certain level because they won't make. I get it. but they are not government funded. They are taxpayer funded. That comes directly from taxpayers. It is very different. Number one. Number two, every media in this outlet in this country is government funded.
And that's the next
one.
Yes, they all are. Because you know what? I'll tell you what. Because we have.
I'll tell you. And let me just finish this. The reason they're government funded is because they are terrible operators of their own fucking business, and they couldn't get advertising, so they were like, "Oh fuck!" And it is a problem. Google did steal all of their thunder. Amazon did steal all of their thunder. Advertising online is more appropriate. It is cheaper, and it doesn't. So these guys, what they did is instead of changing their model to work within it, every media company just stayed the course and was like, "We're going out of business next year. Give us money." And the government's like, "All right, we'll give you money because you're Canadian media entities." And they were not forced to change. All they did was fire people. All they did was make people poor. All they did was take that money and then go and hire people to do a fucking culture war certificate for everybody that reads their newspapers or it takes in their information. And so that's the problem.
Here's another problem.
I'm going to make every single fucking year. Yeah,
Dean, I'm gonna make it even worse. Gonna make it even more complicated, and then we should move on because this is boring. I hate this conversation.
I'm done after
the
this.
Reason why media outlets in this country spend so much time and energy lobbying the Canadian government and whining to them about their current situation and the current media landscape is because it works. Because the government doles out cash, because they're able to scare them into saying, what? You know what? Next thing you know, you're not going to have us around, and then it's going to be a free-for-all, and you're going to have a whole bunch of people in Ottawa that think you're the devil because they're going to get all their news from Facebook. So you need us. And it works. And they go, okay, how much money do you need now? Okay, we'll give you $5 billion. I'm pulling a number out of my ass. I don't even care what the numbers are. We'll give you $5 million. You can help pay your staff to keep them employed. Okay. It happens in other industries as well, where a business goes, you know what? We're going to have to shut this plant down. And they go, no, hold on. You're in an area where you employ 25% of that city, of that area. If you shut down and move to Mexico to do the same thing because you're going to save so much money on labor, you're going to sink that economy. So, well, they'll go, oh, wait, you know what? That's our plan. We're moving to Mexico. And then they write them a check. And the reason why we keep writing those checks is because that's what ends up happening. They're threatened by the possibility of what might happen if that side of the business, whatever it is, goes out of business, and the impact it has on economy or the transfer of information in whatever, whatever sector we're looking at.
Yep. And they have
companies
friends that benefit from it too, right? Like you're right. Yeah.
Companies are good. Companies have guys that are
they have lobby groups
to piss, like to go and sit down and have lunches and scare people in politics
and beg for money that they don't need so they can get free money. Like hundreds of millions of dollars. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You're right. It is boring. I'm tired of talking about it already. Tired of talking about it. No desire. Anyway, fun show.
That was a good
luck
today.
tonight. I'll be rooting for you. I'll have the game on around 10 o'clock tonight. Watch the Oilers Kings. Game 2 should be fun.
Really I decided I was going to continue. My gambling habit is getting out of hand. So I decided last night I'm going to bet. Even though I was like literally like right before I made a bet, I was listening to this guy and he was like, it's really difficult to predict what's going to happen in the first games of the series. And I'm like, no, it's not. So I decided I was going to drop $5 bets on 3 of the games because one of them had already started. And I would have picked the Rangers though, who had won. So I went and I put $5 down on Colorado to win. They got pumped by Seattle. I put $5 down on the Leafs to win. I thought they were going to come out flying because
just got fisted by the Leafs.
And then they get And then I put $5 down. There's no way the Vegas Golden Knights are going to lose to the Jets in the first game. I lost all 3 bets.
That's the way it goes.
Tonight I've got $5 on Leon to score, $5 on McDavid to score, and I've got $5 on the Edmonton Oilers to win. I got to make my money back.
All good bets. Draisaitl will score. McDavid better score.
Yeah, he's going to be highly motivated. And I still have that $100 bet
since March 10th, by the way. You still get your $100 bet on the Leafs losing in 7?
Yeah.
I might put 100 on them losing in 6, actually, after last night's game. I think I might. Can you still do that? Can you
by the way,
that futures bet or no?
Just so you know, I am going to be unbearable if I make that $650.
Dude, I'll be right with you. Like, I've got nothing to defend at this point. I can't. Like, I was watching everybody last night lose their minds on Twitter, and again today, losing their minds on social media. Can't believe it. Couldn't happen. And I'm like, you should have done what I did, everybody. Prior to the playoffs, I put out a post, and my post was, I have 0 expectations. We talked about this, other than great snacks and to watch some playoff hockey. That's it. So last night, my expectations were absolutely met because I had none. Everybody else,
sour cream dip?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Had sour cream dip. I had nuts and bolts. Bits and pieces are called. Nuts and bolts. My mom gets them for me. She makes them for me, sends them to me. She's like, I got you some nuts and bolts. I'm like, thanks, Mom. I had a whole bunch of soda waters. Smoked a great indica. Game starts. Down 2-0 early. Thought I'll hang in there. It's 2-1. Then it's 3-1. Then it's 3-2. Then it's 4-2. Then it's 5-2. And I'm like, fuck this noise. Going upstairs. And I watched Ant-Man Quantumania. And that is where we will end the show because I really enjoyed it. Thanks for doing this, dude. It was a lot of fun.
It's a good one. We'll see you on Friday, brother.
You got it. Thanks, buddy. Lachlan Cross, 957cruisefm.ca is where you can find him, at Lachlan Cross on Twitter. Thanks to Adam Scorgie. Scorgie Productions is where you can find everything Adam does. Again, don't forget, 14th of May, Thunder, The Life and Death of Arturo Gotti will be premiering on Super Channel. So get Super Channel wherever you get it. And follow Adam Scorgie on Twitter, and you can get all the details in his bio as well. That's it for us. Have a great day. Thanks to Cantork, Canada's assembly tool experts, the best in the business. They only manufacture in Canada, but they send it everywhere because they're the best in the world at making hard-working, beautiful torque wrenches. Canada's leading industrial tool experts, giving you the very best in sales, service, rentals, calibration, maintenance, custom fabrication of industrial torque tools. No matter the scale of that bolting project, no matter what industry is it in, doesn't matter if it's nuclear, doesn't matter if it's railroad, doesn't matter if it's forestry, heavy machinery, doesn't matter if you got a loosening or a fastening solution that you need fixed because you cannot find the tool for it. The best in the world are here and right in Canada, Edmonton, Alberta. No matter the scale of your bolting project, Canada's assembly tool exports at Cantork have your solution. Go to cantork.today, cantork.com today for more information. Kevlar defense lawyers, top criminal defense lawyers that want you to get your life back, want to keep you out of trouble, want to help you deal with your legal issues. Doesn't matter what it is, assault, white-collar crime, litigation, any offense that you were charged for. Any wrongful arrest, doesn't matter. Rob knows you want to get your life back. You need great criminal defense attorneys and honest answers about your situation from defense lawyers that know exactly what they're doing, know how to fight for you as well. Speak to a lawyer today by going to kivlaw.ca or email Robert, your own bad self, at robert@kivlaw.ca. Southern Ontario's top criminal defense team, Kivlaw Defense Lawyers, kivlaw.ca. And we're brought to you by Gitch, engineered for any level of performance as well as everyday life. Gitch are the world's most perfect underpant. Boxer briefs, pouch in the front, can't miss, made for all levels of performance. You can run, walk, sprint through your day in very soft, barely there comfort. You'll never want to take these off. And right now, kids, just for you, you can buy 3 and then get a 4th pair for free when you go to Ed's Fine Imports and you pump in the promo code, which is GITCH3. Do that at checkout, and you'll be the owner of a free pair of underwear. Any color you want. Swear to God, best underwear you'll ever buy. Gitch, engineered for any level of performance, is everyday life. edsfineimports.com. Gitch3 is your promo code. There you go, kids. Have a wonderful day. Thanks very much for being part of the program. We'll see you on Friday, where Marcus Kolga, disinformation researcher, will join us to talk about where all the bullshit comes from, and he's got receipts. Join us then, won't you? Bye.
Bye.